It's just going to be us talking candidly, followed by our screams and gurgling as we drown in the ocean.
We're seasoned.
What? No, we're not, though. We're not seasoned. What do you mean we're seasoned? We don't sail. We live in New Jersey. Not even on the coast.
Excuse. I mean, we could figure it out. We'll go to a yacht club. We'll take a weekend course, and we'll
Joe,
set sail.
the biggest body of water I live next to is that parking lot that floods when it rains. That's all I got.
Welcome to the Conspiracy Kitchen.
What's going on, guys? Thank you for joining us in the Conspiracy Kitchen, where we attempt to find the secret ingredients behind life's daily mysteries. As always, I'm Joe, and I'm accompanied by my sous chef, Josh, aka the Cryptid Killer.
Hey, everyone.
And the special on the menu today, I think we're going to do the Mary Celeste, that ship that was out to go to Italy, and the crew just randomly disappeared. Kind of suspicious stuff going on, a lot of different theories, so we'll dive in, pick it apart, find the ingredients, and see what we feel could be the best fit. Now, I guess...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say it's the most famous missing persons case having to do with a ship in history.
Yes. Missing... Yeah, they're gone, right? Nowhere to be found.
They're fucking vanished.
See you later. But, so, before it was even called the Mary Celeste, let's go back. Let's just go through all how horrible and bad luck this ship was. So, originally, this thing was built back in 1861 in a shipyard in Spencer Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. So, strike one. Built in Canada. It was supervised by a shipbuilder, Joshua Dewis. It was a brigantine, which is like a 2-mast sailing vessel made of wood, about 99 to 100 feet long, 25 feet wide, had a depth of about 11 to 12 feet. In June 1861, its captain, Robert McLellan, signed on for its maiden voyage. Well, just 9 short days later after signing on, this guy gets pneumonia and dies. Right off the bat.
What a bum.
Maiden voyage to returned. Whoa. Right off the bat. So it's built in Canada. And then the original captain, gets pneumonia and dies. It's a little weird. Would you get on this ship now?
No, you scrap it and make a bench. You make a bench out of it.
So the Amazon should have been scrapped right off the bat.
Yep.
This thing was supposed to be, delivering timber to London on its maiden voyage, and instead the guy gets pneumonia and dies. Weird. So then they switched the captain or the command to a guy named John Nutting Parker. Weird name. So he is now to bring timber to London, and he gets there. He crosses over the Atlantic. He brings the timber to London, and seems like everything goes well. After that transatlantic run, coming back to Canada, off the coast of Maine, they run into fishing nets. Fishing gear and fishing nets. It damages the hull. Damages got to be brought back, and it's got to be fixed and repaired, because it was actually enough to warrant it to be, brought back and have to go up for extensive repairs. Again.
Jesus.
Right off the bat, the Amazon. And you fast forward a couple years, I guess it's going back and forth. Probably some mishaps in there, but they're not really well documented. We're out in the English Channel in 1867. Apparently there's a storm. They don't want to talk. For some reason, the captain's name is not really in these logs or consistently recorded. We can dive deeper into that, I guess, but there's no name specifically for this journey. The ship then strikes the Osprey, which is a small brig, 1-mast ship, The collision sinks the Osprey and is severe to the Amazon, but it stays afloat. So this sustains heavy damage. Again, now they got to bring the ship in and repair it. Now you're dumping money into this thing at this point. Do we continue to sail this thing?
Shouldn't.
Would you? Would you want to get on this ship?
No, it's the equivalent of that old, like, Honda Civic that just continues to break down and give you issues where you just keep dumping money into it. Get rid of it.
It's a lemon from the start.
It's a hunk of shit on the ocean. You don't need that.
From the start, it was just not good. Not good at all. And it I don't know. You just keep trying to drag the thing out there. So they fix this thing up again. And then they put none other than John Nutting Parker back in command of the ship. So he was, when they, had the frickin' hit the fishing gear and everything off the coast of Maine, he's back in there. This is now later on, so same year, 67, but later on in October. He's out there somewhere off the coast of Nova Scotia near Glace Bay. There's a big storm. They're getting battered out there, and right into the rocks. They ground it. They run it aground. The damage, they say, is just too extensive at this point. This thing's been destroyed how many times? People are dying on it, trying to get pneumonia and everything else. So they just abandon it. Just abandon it there on the rocks and let it go.
That was the smartest move by far. leave that hunk of shit on the rocks.
Just leave it there. Fuck it. But then you got a consortium of local investors from Spencer's Island, and none other than Joshua. He comes back, and they sell it for $1,750 to Richard Haynes, aka Dick, who was an American. And he said, "Oh, I think we should be able to restore this. I see potential in this thing. Let's rebuild it." Yeah.
There's no potential. There's nothing there.
No?
You got Captain Nut and you got Dick Haynes. What is happening with these names? This ship sucks.
It's been a disaster from the start, and an American, the Richard Haynes gets tied up into it now. Why would he do this? I don't know. Well, he dumps a bunch of money into this freaking thing, the Amazon. Significant repairs, rebuilds the whole thing, and on top of it, they register under American ownership, and they change the name to the Mary Celeste. Now, if you know anything, or if you have boats or whatever, everyone knows it is extremely bad luck to rename a boat. The boat's already cursed. It's built in Canada. They freaking kills its first captain. People are running it aground, hitting each other with it, and now you're gonna rename it. Well, so it takes years to rebuild, and it sets sail, I guess, for Italy with a new captain on board. Sorry. And that is Captain Briggs. So this, Benjamin Spooner Briggs, to be exact. So this thing sets sail in 1872. So it was rebought by the Americans in 1868 and then set sail in 1872. Took a couple years to rebuild it. So this voyage that everyone talks about, I guess, it's one of the most famous missing persons ship stories in history. It set sails on November 7th, 1872. It's loaded down with alcohol, unnatured alcohol, or I guess that's ethanol or something like that. You don't drink it, obviously. It's industrial alcohol. What was it, 17... How many barrels did I have on there?
It's like
1,701 or some nonsense.
There's a weird number, yeah. It's a good amount, though.
Yeah, so there's tons of this alcohol on here. And it set sail. The captain, Captain Briggs, and we'll get into Briggs here too, because he's not some inexperienced schlub off the streets. This guy was born into maritime tradition. He was born in Massachusetts, a coastal town. Their family was into maritime captains and everything else. So he was not inexperienced. He was seafaring in his early teens as a career. By his mid-20s, this guy now is commanding vessels. So obviously he's extremely competent on how to navigate ships. He knows his stuff. So in 1872, this guy's now 37 years old. So he's been doing this for a while. There's no way this guy would make any stupid mistakes, I would think. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's just going to be... There's no knee-jerk reactions from this guy. He should be hardened and experienced and not jump to any type of conclusion when you're out there.
I don't know if... I don't know how... I know we were just talking about this. I don't know how the alcohol, if that... I don't know. We'll get into the theories, but one of the theories is the alcohol fumes. But...
Yeah, they talk about the fumes made him panic. So yeah, they did have 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. It's going to Italy. So Briggs did bring his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, which I don't know. In 1872, I don't know if I would bring my 2-year-old daughter on this thing anyway. But I guess he big man, extreme good captain, thought he could do it. He also had a crew of 7 guys. The ship left Pier 50 on the East River after loading the cargo on October 20th. Bad weather delayed it. So again, misfortune. The bad weather delays the trip. I don't know. He anchored off the coast of Staten Island, waiting for better conditions before setting sail. Again, I would just be like, fuck this. We're not doing this. But they just keep fucking pushing this ship, man. And it's cursed to begin with. So the final log entry was dated November 25th. They recorded the ship's position about 6 nautical miles from Santa Maria Island, and there was no signs of distress. They never mentioned anything about anything being bad. Do you have any of them logs?
I do.
They talked about logs?
I do. I have the logs. It kind of pinpoints, for the most part, when whatever happened to them would have taken place. So they left, what day was it? The November 24th?
So the last log entry was November 25th. They left... They were loaded up October 20th, but they had a delay until November 7th. They anchored because of bad weather and all this. Again, just stop. Just stop trying to use this ship, dude. Yeah. It's just nothing but bad omens.
Because whatever happened to them, it only took a few hours. They left at 12 p.m. That was, noon, the start time. Ship's latitude 36 by 56 north and longitude 27 by 20 west, which puts Santa Maria 110 miles east ahead of them. Ship speed was 8 knots, which was pretty fast for that time.
Yeah, for a sailing vessel with note, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. And they stayed at this speed because the log at midnight reads 8 knots, course E by S, wind west, MP rainy, which, they kept the speed going the whole time. Weather reports for that area at the time is bad rainy weather. So just, it's average, shitty weather. The log at 5 a.m. reads, at 5, made island of Santa Maria, bearing east. And then the last log is... At 8, south within the limit of the trade winds, blowing northeast, eastern point, about 6 miles from Santa Maria, which they're right off the coast of the east of Santa Maria. So that can conclude that whatever happened to them would have happened just after 8 a.m. if you going by the knots, 8 knots and all that shit. But... Yeah, they were only sailing for a few hours before shit happened. And then the ship was found later on.
Yeah, so the ship was found December 5th, 1872. So almost a month after it left. they found it. The British brigantine De Gracia. I guess that's how you say it, right?
De Gratia, yeah. De Gratia.
Yeah, the British brigantine De Gratia, captained by David Morehouse, spotted the Mary Celeste drifting erratically about 400 miles east of Azores. So they board this thing. The crew found the ship abandoned but seaworthy. The cargo was largely intact, so there's nothing stolen, really. There's no evidence of pirates. And the personal belongings are still undisturbed. There's provisions for about 6 months left. The only thing they noticed missing was one lifeboat. It does have two, but one was missing. Some papers were missing for some reason, and one of the pumps was disassembled. There was about 3 feet of water in the bottom of the ship in the hold, but that's not really significant and nowhere near enough to make this thing sink. So, that being said, they towed this ship to Gibraltar. The British Vice Admiralty Court investigated the abandonment. They've discovered no evidence of foul play. Kind of looked at some stuff for piracy, mutiny, or insurance fraud, but the ship, the salvagers, they got a nice reward, and the ship was returned to the owners.
And sorry, if I could just mention real quick something else about the ship when they found it. They concluded that if it was abandoned, it would have happened during good weather. And the only reason I say that is because it was found with the skylight was open, but the cabin windows were closed, which shows they were going through bad weather at the time. But then the skylight was open, which signifies, a calm morning, the weather's better, and also they couldn't have launched. There was no damage to where the lifeboat was dropped,
Yes.
which signifies that they didn't. If you dropped it without stopping, there's going to be damage. But if the seas are calm and there's no wind, you're not going to damage anything dropping the lifeboat while moving.
The lifeboat is just slamming against the side of it. If it's rough seas, you got chop slamming that lifeboat back and forth. There's no damage there, so it looks like it just dropped straight down. So it must have been calm seas.
Yeah, it must have been like right after a storm.
Yeah, after the storm, not during the storm.
No.
That's why the hatches were open, fresh air coming in. They also mentioned, and there's been reports of it, that apparently their belongings were all intact, laying out. Apparently there was fresh breakfast sitting up on the table, right?
What do you think they had?
I see some eggs, maybe little scrambled eggs. I see maybe the captain's chair. He had nice spread with little. I think there was a nice cool glass Ovaltine sitting right next to his plate with his fork and knife.
Yeah, you're going through a rough squall. Calm yourself down with a cool glass of Ovaltine.
Yeah, he needed those vitamins and minerals to. So that I don't think he jumped the gun on that. He was peak performance at that time.
He was experienced. He may have been more experienced than anybody else on the ship.
Probably was. Apparently, the second mate was also, or his first mate was also pretty experienced. But I guess we can get into them with the theories. But yeah, so it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like they just disappeared.
Just vanished.
Just vanished. Off the one lifeboat's gone, and that was it. So they bring this thing back. They get freaking finder's fee. The ship goes back, and goes back to the owners. I just don't see much of any of these really theories to say this is what happened. I guess we can start with something like mutiny. So there's a theory around that mutiny. The crew killed the captain and his family and then fled in one of the lifeboats.
I don't like this theory because they weren't at sea long enough for mutiny to cross anyone's mind, in my opinion. Are you going to be that unhappy that fast?
Yeah. Oh, it's been freaking 2 weeks. I'm going to kill these. And I just don't see a crew that you're going to be on the ship with. I'm sure he knew these guys. I don't think you just bring crew members you don't know. So I think he had some kind of relationship with his crew. I don't see this crew killing his 2-year-old daughter. I just cannot see that.
No, what do you get out of it? It's stupid.
And on top of it, there's no evidence of blood. There's no evidence of a struggle. You know, you would think they would maybe take some valuables from the captain if they're going to kill him and leave in the lifeboat.
Yeah, nothing was disturbed on the ship. Nothing.
And the crew members they had no record of any type of history of doing anything like this. They're all, a good crew. They had good marks on their records. Nothing about discord or violence or anything on their record. So for me, that one right off the bat, I'd just say no, not mutiny. There's no way. I mean, the guy would have. If there's mutiny, I would be taking this glass of Ovaltine and drinking it. I wouldn't leave that behind.
I would stock up all the Ovaltine in the boat and just leave.
Exactly. No way. No way. Was Ovaltine around back then?
No. It should have been.
It should have been. It might not have been around, but it should have been. So then they have another theory we got going on here. What do you think of the piracy?
Again, nothing was taken. Not a thing. And it's not like the pirates are going to come and just take the people and say, well, we got what we came for. No, there's barrels of denatured alcohol. You get money for that. And then whatever else is on the ship. The whole thing would have been completely stripped.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I think. So the idea is that the pirates game or the Degradia, attack the crew to take the ship and get salvage. The rights to money finder's fee or whatever you want to call it, salvage money to give it back to the owners. But that crew was, they were cleared of suspicious by a British inquiry. Now, from our from our Princess Diana episode, we know how the British inquiries work. They're not good.
They're very thorough. Oh,
they're like the opposite of thorough, right? Oh. So the British, their answer to this is all they come up with. They didn't check anything else besides this. They said the finder's fee is not enough to split between the people to risk finding a quote-unquote ghost ship and killing the crew. So they didn't do it. That's what they say.
It's sound reasoning.
So they're cleared of suspicion. That's fine. They'll give you the money, and no wrongdoing.
Yeah.
See you later.
Give them more money to gas up their ship and go kill another family on the high seas.
Yeah, maybe that one ship splitting it isn't enough. But if you do, why are they always finding these ships floating around?
No, these guys have the best luck in the world.
They're always finding the ships. They just keep paying them. They're great. Yeah,
finding all these ships with no one on them. Amazing. Amazing. We don't look into this further.
We shouldn't have to. Yeah, well, we don't want to do our jobs.
Well, one of the first mate, one of the theories, Oliver DeVoe was his name. His theory was, he thought that the crew of the Mary Celeste thought that their ship was sinking, because they found the sounding rod on the deck. Yeah. And, there's malfunctions in the water pump, so there was more water than usual. And he thinks that they used the rod wrong, which wouldn't have happened because they're all seasoned.
Yeah, there's no way.
They thought there was a lot of water, so they got in the lifeboat and drifted off. But, again, all seasoned, every single one of them. So that debunked.
I would say that's debunked. I don't see a seasoned crew reading a tool that saves their lives wrong. I can't see them. Oh no, just abandon ship, and all just pile into one lifeboat when there's two. So you overload a lifeboat. To me, again, I don't think so. There's also, what do we got? Natural disaster, like a water spout or a seaquake or a rogue wave.
I heard about the water spout one.
So they're trying to say that there's some water in the hold about 3 feet, but it wasn't sinking and the pumps were operational. And like you said, the hatches are open, kind of suggesting more of a calm weather. No damage to where the lifeboat was dropped in, so this lifeboat wasn't slamming off the ship, damaging anything as in a rough sea. So I don't see that either. And the weather records then didn't support a sudden crew-threatening event.
Yeah, another theory was the icebergs, which, again, with the weather, it doesn't support that.
Yeah, again, it doesn't support it either. So they're trying to say, like, a rogue wave. There's no damage to the ship besides, they keep talking about the water in the hole, but, I mean, all boats, if you're in a boat or ship or whatever, they do take on some water at all times. And then you have bilge pumps to pump it out. Even our boat, you always had some water down in the bottom. Much smaller boat, so much less water. We didn't have 3 feet. I mean, 3 feet in our boat would have been a problem. But for this, it's not a problem. So I think that was just natural water getting through the wood, through the, because then especially wooden ships, they take on more water than fiberglass. So I don't see this being a reason. I don't see a natural disaster. There's just a lack of evidence.
It's just an easy answer. But
yeah, that one's debunked.
Then we get into the fumes, which was actually Captain Briggs's cousin, Dr. Cobb. His theory was the fumes. And he was saying that the cargo being loaded in cold weather in New York, then crossing the Gulf Stream, now being in warmer weather, caused a leak of the alcohol and therefore gas forming in the hold. And then the captain, being scared, took all the instruments for navigation and the ship's papers and fled in the lifeboat. Which, again, why would he do that? He knows better than to... There's nothing supporting this theory.
I mean, it's, to me, if you're going to go with just try to do straight mainstream way of doing it, I think it'd be the most excellent, like the best one of the ones I've talked about so far. But again, why would they all pile into one lifeboat? I just don't see them doing that. You'd probably just take 2 so you're not so crowded and float next to the ship or whatever. But they were afraid of a leak causing gas and explosion. But being a seasoned, the ship never exploded. Nothing happened to the ship. So someone like Captain Briggs, you would think, would understand what's going on. And then if you're on the deck, I mean, the fumes aren't going to affect you. You got the natural, ventilation. You got air moving it around. It's going to be dispersed quickly. Why not just stay on the deck? I mean, you need an ignition source for an explosion. It doesn't have maybe the bilge, the pumps or whatever, but it's sail. It's a sailboat. So I just don't see, being it is the most possible, I guess, of these, I just don't see that being the case. I don't think they're going to pile into one lifeboat. And being a complete seasoned crew, all of them, you're telling me they didn't know how to tie a fucking knot to keep their lifeboat attached to the ship?
It's day one shit is knot tying. You learned this as a child back then.
Yeah, like they came out of the womb, and there was, let's learn how to roll over and tie a knot. You can't fuck that up. They're trying to say that, they wanted to all pile in the one lifeboat as a precaution to stay away, and then there was a sudden shift in wind, so the lifeboat went sideways, and they didn't tie the knot properly, and it separated them from the ship, and they just floated away.
Yeah, they're all just a bunch of bumbling shipmates who didn't know anything.
No way did that happen. No way.
There's zero chance of that. Zero.
And you're telling what? They just sit there and stare at the ship as they float away? They don't try to paddle or anything back to the ship?
I like to think they're all just sitting there, and then they're facing away, and the one guy looks up and is like, "Hey, wait, there it goes," and they're like, "Oh, well."
And they just sit there and they don't try to make their way back to the ship or anything?
They don't have oars to row themselves? What were they doing?
Yeah, you think the lifeboat would have oars in it or something? What, we can't, I guess. I mean, once you're out in the ocean, unless it's like a fucking storm, which I don't think they would be all piling into a lifeboat if it was a horrible storm, because then the lifeboat's just getting thrown around. And again, like you said, no evidence of a storm slamming this lifeboat around and damaging everything.
Yeah, plus
It's pretty calm at that point, right? In the ocean, you're not near land to make waves and shit. It's just, you got a little current. You can't try to fucking row back something.
yeah, if it's a horrible storm, do you want to be in the ship that has a roof, or do you want to be in the rowboat that's tied half-ass to the side of the giant ship? I don't know. I'll take my chances with the fumes.
And then you overpack it. Because apparently they weren't meant for 10 people, or they were only meant for 7 people each. So you just pack all 10 into it. They should just split them up.
It's nonsense.
I don't... again, alcohol fumes. The most probable, plausible, but I'm not going for it.
Like there is a lot of evidence to support that there was the lifeboat. Sure, there was the rope trailing behind, and there was the lifeboat missing. Okay. But what would have caused them to get in there, and why just the one?
Yeah, why just the one? And so the lifeboat was untied from the rope. The rope was still attached to the ship, is what we're saying. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you see the knot coming untied, you don't just go, oh, let me try to grab the rope. You just...
Hey, do one of 20,000 different knot styles we learned. Our day one.
Tie it back up. Someone dive into the water and climb back up the rope. Get back on the ship. I don't know. There's so many things you could have done with that fucking rope floating in the water behind the ship. You don't just see it untie and go, oh, well, we're fucked. We're done.
We did everything we could do.
Every single person fell asleep at the same time?
Yeah.
In a fucking lifeboat in the middle of the ocean?
And they woke up like Castaway with Wilson just kind of drifting off into the distance.
It makes no sense.
It's
I'm sorry.
Garbage.
Bullshit. Yeah. Bullshit. Bullshit. Go ahead.
I was going to say, then we get into the sea monster theory.
There's a sea monster theory. There's also the insurance fraud theory, which I don't think it was true. They're trying to say that he staged an abandonment for profit, but the ship was fully insured, and Briggs was respected, so there was no reason for it. And the cargo belonged to another party, so, I mean, he can't make money off that. There's the one, before we get to Sea Monster, the last one I wanted to talk about that's absolutely impossible, but stupid. They said that the crew got a hold of the alcohol, drank it, and then either killed each other or fell overboard from being drunk.
I like that one. It's just fun. They went out partying.
So you're telling me they drank this denatured industrial grade alcohol and got drunk?
And threw the baby like a football.
Or did they drink this and just completely die vomiting all over the place because it's not liquor, it's not consumable, it's not potable, it will just kill you.
Yeah, and then the rain from the storm washed all the puke off the...
Oh, is that what happened?
Washed all the evidence.
The puke was gone. And when they fell off the ship...
Yeah, swept them away.
They just all fell off the ship because they're just fucking drunk on industrial grade alcohol.
Yeah, you know what? That's what happened. They all fell into the ocean. Captain Briggs, being the gentleman he is, jumped in the lifeboat to go and save them. The rope snapped. His dumb wife was on the ship still, fumbling, trying to tie a new knot, but she doesn't know what she's doing. Holding the baby in one hand, trying to tie a knot with one in the other, it just falls overboard. There, we solved it, folks.
Oh my God! You blew me away.
It's just like the storm with the drunk sailors, blew them away.
So all seven crew members, including the first mate, got drunk off non-drinkable alcohol instead of getting toxic, freaking liver shut down, poisoning. They just get drunk, fall off the ship. Okay. captain goes to save him because that's why only one lifeboat was gone. He's out there. The knot, in a haste to save these drunk people. The knot wasn't good. It came loose. The wife's trying to. Oh, yep.
It's doable.
It's doable. This would be my most favorite so far.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it.
No Simon involved in this one.
No, not in this one.
Or maybe.
Well, not yet. How many years away is that?
Only like 80.
Well. But then then we got the sea monster theory, which is fun for me because they talk about a giant octopus picking them off one by one, which I feel like after 3 go missing, you start to notice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But it's a fun theory.
But, again, not supported, no damage to the ship. The sea monster's not going to be nice to the ship and just only hit humans, right?
Yeah, unless it's really good at killing people on a ship.
It just doesn't actually damage the ship. And going back to your drunken crew, remember, one of the barrels was empty.
Oh, they drank a lot.
They drank a whole barrel.
They would have been dead. Even before they hit the water.
Yeah. But he's still, like you said, Captain Briggs, still the gentleman he is. He didn't want them to he wanted to bring their bodies back. You have to bring them home still.
Captain Briggs, the bad motherfucker of the 1800s, went out in a rowboat in a storm.
I can see him out there in the rowboat, in the storm, glass Ovaltine in one hand, trying to get these guys, and it just all went downhill because his wife Sarah couldn't retie the knot.
Yeah, and the rowboat broke, and as he's sinking into the water, much like the end of Terminator 2, where he sinks into the lava with a thumbs up, you see Briggs sinking into the ocean with the Ovaltine.
Trying to save it to the last drop.
To the very last drop. This is the best theory. I like this one.
This is the best theory, by far. Even though, you know how I am, I love aliens. You know, there's still a chance there's alien involvement.
There's always a chance.
You cannot tell me 100% that there was no evidence. There was no alien. There's no way to prove that there wasn't an alien there. And when you have someone like Captain Briggs, one of the best captains, I guess, of this time, aliens will take notice of that. Maybe they want him to captain one of their ships. You know, we got Atlantis, where we believe, if you listen to our alien episode, or well, at least I did, I think some of these ancient aliens actually live in the sea. There's reports of, the what do you call them? They can transverse between different, ground, air, water, the UFOs. You see them come out of the water, right? So then he's out there. He's not quite to the Bermuda Triangle. It's a little off, almost, but not quite. They take notice of the ship, and they want 10 new people to help them out with whatever fuck aliens do. I don't know. And they abduct them.
Yeah, and you let the crew sink into the ocean. Because
they didn't sink; they just abducted them. Or did they? The whole crew was gone. They didn't care.
They didn't need the crew. They were drunk off of undrinkable alcohol.
Yeah, so they only wanted the captain and his family. They wanted that DNA. They wanted that, lineage. So they're drawn to the ship first of all because of their scanners detect this absolute amazing substance that is packed with vitamins and minerals. It's the Ovaltine. The scanners go, they find the ship, they want to know what it is, they believe Captain Briggs knows the answer, and they abduct them.
Yeah. It's sound reasoning. That's exactly what happened.
Yes. So, for the most part, the mainstream one is what? The alcohol fumes?
Alcohol fumes, that's the main one. There was also another one that there was a government cover-up because they got too close to the Bermuda Triangle, which we were just discovering at the time. I don't know. It's nonsense. But mainly alcohol fumes.
So now you got this. The ship is then again put back into service, right? Again, at this point, I don't know why you keep putting the ship back into fucking service. Cut your losses. It just wants to kill people. It wants to make your life miserable. But nope. They bring another guy, Gilman Parker, new captain. So they send him on his merry way, January 3rd, 1885. After the ship was reconditioned, everything after it's freaking, again, killing people on this thing. This ship then, well, after investigation, was deliberately steered and run aground off the coast of Haiti. The ship was loaded with worthless cargo, but was misrepresented. And they put down that the cargo was valuable and insured for $30,000. So then they run this thing aground, left it stranded on a reef, and it just deteriorated over time. The Haitians then go and do a investigation on it. They expose the fraud relatively quickly. I mean, they just, like, this guy's a fucking asshole, I guess. They just knew. And they just brought him to trial in the United States, and that was it. They were done. Throw him in jail. See you later. The ship apparently was refound in 2001, 116 years later. So, I think we should buy it, Josh.
And do what with it? We're not going to sail because we're going to
sail it.
We're going to disappear.
We're going to sail it.
Look, if we sail it, we disappear. If we scrap it and build a house, something will happen and it'll burn down. I mean, it's a bad idea.
No, I say we change the name, buy it, change the name, and sail in it.
What are you going to change the name to?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question. But I think we should sail it. It needs to be sailed around the world with us in it recording our podcast.
It's the worst idea.
We'll get a Starlink satellite up so we can even record and be on here. Maybe even do a live stream while we're being killed by the ship.
Yeah. It's just going to be us talking candidly, followed by our screams and gurgling as we drown in the ocean.
We're seasoned.
What? No, we're not, though. We're not seasoned. What do you mean we're seasoned? We don't sail. We live in New Jersey. Not even on the coast.
I mean, we could figure it out. We'll go to a yacht club. We'll take a weekend course, and we'll set sail.
The biggest body of water I live next to is that parking lot that floods when it rains. That's all I got.
Well, I'll go over to Lake over here and I'll freaking I'll sail in the lake.
Just 3 blocks from my address, which is no.
That'll get beat. You didn't want to do it.
You know what? Fine. Let's buy this death trap and sail around the world doing a podcast.
Thank you.
Kind of make
Where
it
our
like
families miss us.
Well, yeah, right up to the week we die. Not seasoned.
You look like a captain.
I know I do, but we're about as seasoned as a steak from Applebee's, which is not at all. So,
for the UK people that don't know what Applebee's is,
it's a shithole. Sorry, not sponsored.
Not sponsored by Applebee's, no. Did they make a movie about this?
Applebee's? No.
No, about the Mary Celeste.
Oh, yeah, they did. I actually just watched it tonight.
Oh, it must have been a masterpiece.
You know what? It wasn't well,
It was bad.
it was bad. It was really bad.
So before we start that, what is your final theory on this, on what happened to these people?
Oh, I like the one that I said where they all got drunk and then
It was the drunken ones.
yeah, and he's out there to rowboat with Ovaltine.
Okay, yeah. And then the wife was just useless, is what you're saying.
Well, she's holding the baby in one hand and trying to tie a knot with the other, and then just falls overboard like a doddering old woman.
37? Or close to 30s, I guess.
37 back then was like 86 now, so
It's probably true. It was the late 1800s, you're right.
yeah. She was
All right, we'll go with that.
out of her prime by then.
Her daughter was only 2, but we're going to go with that. We're going to go with, 35, especially back then, was kind of old to have a kid, right?
No, I mean, but 2 years old then, you'd be working in the factory already.
Yeah, that kid should have been helping out. At least, setting the sails.
A lazy kid, anyway.
Unreal. Yep, drunk crew fell overboard. Captain tries to save him. Knot comes undone. He's yelling at his wife to tie it. She falls in the water. Game over.
Game over. But, yeah, I watched the movie tonight. Not because I wanted to, but because this is the episode. I gotta watch a movie.
And he did this for you guys. He suffered through this for you guys.
I did. I sat at my desk with my cat clawing my ankle, sitting through this movie called The Haunting of the Mary Celeste, which is not that old. It came out in 2020. But, yeah, it starts off. There's the main character, this girl Rachel. She's in like a void dream state thing, and she's under the water, and there's a little girl, and then she wakes up screaming in a bathtub and starts crying, and you're like, all right, it's not important. And then it cuts to her talking with her assistant, this very feminine man named Grant, who is clearly in love with her. And they're science crew from a college of some sort. They never really go into detail. And talking about how they got to go meet the ship captain. And where they're like, where's the other assistant? And in comes Cassandra, who is British, kind of. And I say that because her accent drifts in and out to the point where she could either be from London or North Dakota.
So you're saying it's poor acting?
Oh boy, it's not good. But then you see the main character fumbling with a old looking box full of items, which you later find out was from the Mary Celeste, the original ship. And they go down to, they're in the fuck are they? They're on an island about to go to where the Mary Celeste was last seen. So they go down to meet the ship captain, and he's not there. He apparently got scared and fucked off and just said, fuck you guys. But next to them is an old, crotchety sea captain named Captain Tolles, played by Richard Roundtree. That's right, folks. Shaft is the old, ornery ship captain who they end up hiring after 20 minutes of convincing and following him around a dock. They hire him to take them where they need to go, and they get on his ship, which on the outside is extremely small. It's an old boat, and you go on the inside, there's like stairs and like several floors, and it's a lot bigger on the inside. It's a Harry Potter boat, essentially. So they all pile in, and it's him and his crewmate Aldo, who doesn't speak a lick of English. He just gives dirty looks and waddles away. And they fuck off into the ocean, And all of a sudden, it's nighttime, and the engine dies. You're like, oh no, what happened? What's going on here? And
Likely thrown a propeller blade,
yeah,
just like the Titanic.
just like the Titanic. Rachel is angry because she's like, I thought you were going to get us to where we needed to go. And the ship captain's like, where do you think we are now? And dun dun dun. And they're right where they're supposed to be. So as Aldo waddles off to go work on the engines, presumably, Rachel and crew take all their instruments out and start doing science things, picking up signals of nonsense. The captain's asking her, "What are you doing?" And and she explains the Mary Celeste to him. Which once she says the words Mary Celeste, it's like you could hear a pin drop. Everybody stops and looks at each other. It's like, oh, you already know about the ship, don't you? He's like,
So
I
it's
heard
like when
of it.
it's like when they walked into that bar during the Devil's Pass movie.
I was gonna say it's the same movie, just in the ocean. So, go
I'll
ahead.
just let you know that this thing had a budget of about $25,000, according to Grok.
Which one, Mary Celeste?
This movie, yes.
Well, yeah, there's like 5 characters. It all takes place on an old ship. Sorry, rowboat. So he's asking like, what's your theory on it? And her theory is she feels like there's different areas around the world that when seismic activity happens, it causes a rift that causes people and objects to disappear, kind of like when you shoot a gun, there's blowback. And it sounds smart and stupid all at the same time. So he just kind of nods and goes along with it, and then he just walks away. Now, while all this is happening, Aldo is downstairs, and he hears something in the cabinet. So this takes 20 minutes, by the way, of him just sweating and walking around at the bottom of the ship. And I almost fell asleep watching this because he doesn't speak. So he's just walking around. And he opens this cabinet, and then it cuts to them finding him on the floor, catatonic, like he just saw a ghost. And they just put him in a bed and leave him there. And then Captain Tulls runs upstairs and tries to start the ship, and they're like, why would you try and start the ship if the engines don't work? Because it broke down on them. And she's like, wait a minute, the engines do work, don't they? You were trying to rip me off for more money. Because before that, he was like trying to radio for help.
Mm-hmm.
But she offered him more money to like wait. Because she needed the seismic activity to happen so she could get her readings.
Oh.
Very stupid. And then she's like, you were trying to scam me for money. And he's like, don't judge me, woman. And then they go back downstairs for whatever reason, and Aldo's gone.
Uh-oh.
He's just not there. And they hear something off in the distance in the ocean, and they see on the radar that something is there, and they don't see anything, but they hear presumably Aldo out in the distance. And Rachel was going to jump in the rowboat and go out and check on it, and Captain said, no, you can't do that. And then Cassandra, the assistant, is like, no, I'm going to go. And Captain's like, okay, you go. But mind you, none of these people have any sea experience. This is a random college girl, doesn't know how to row a boat, and he's just letting her go off in the middle of the night to just start yelling for Aldo. And they tie the rope to the rowboat in true Mary Celeste fashion, and she goes out there and thinks she sees something in the water, so of course she reaches in the ocean, and you hear a scream, and they pull the rope, and there's nothing on the other end. So she's gone. Now it's just the 3 of them on this ship, and the other assistant, Grant, sees a bunch of quarters start moving on their own. So he's like, "Wow, this is great seismic activity." So they decide to hold a séance because why not? And they take all the quarters they have and all the objects from the original Mary Celeste and put it in a circle, and they just try to talk to spirits. And as they're doing that, the items start shaking. So she's like, "Grant, take out the camera." And this is what pissed me off. It's shaking, and he pulls out a camera, like a disposable camera, and starts taking pictures, like the which you wouldn't pick up on anything.
You're not going to see vibration in a still photo.
Not even a little. He's just taking, and he just keeps snapping them for like 10 minutes. This goes on, and she's like, "Are you getting this?" He's like, "Oh, I'm getting it." And you get nothing, absolutely nothing. So then she hears a voice coming through the radio of a little girl, and Rachel starts crying, and then the seance is over, and he's like, "Who's a little girl?" And she's like, "That was my daughter. She was on a ship with me, and she disappeared, and that's why I'm really out here." And then she tells the story of that, which she's like, "I work on ships for a living, and I wanted to bring my daughter to show her what I do and why I'm never home. So we were in the Sea of Japan, and we were playing a game of hide and seek, which is safe to do with a child on a ship in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, makes sense.
And she disappeared, and I've been looking for her ever since, which then I don't know why you'd end up in the Atlantic, but it's fine. It's fine." And then this is another part that annoys me. They couldn't figure out how to film it because part of the ship, it was like daytime and cloudy, and then they go inside and it's like pitch black outside. So it just keeps going back and forth to nothing. And then, of course, something happens to Grant. I'd say something because you don't really see it. He goes catatonic, and then he disappears, presumably into the rift, because now it's a rift situation. And then the same thing with Captain Tulls, and then the same thing with Rachel. Oh no, Rachel goes into the cabinet, which she enters the rift into the ocean like her vision from the beginning, and she sees her daughter and hugs her, and then it cuts to morning, and the ship is being found, and two Spanish men jump on the ship, and they're like, "There's no one here." And then you see a third person, and it's Cassandra, and she's just looking around, and she finds the camera, and she watches it back, and then the credits roll. Now, it doesn't make sense, because Cassandra was gone. She was gone in the ocean, in the rowboat, and she didn't come back. Why was she there later on? Why?
She did it.
I guess. What did she do, though? It doesn't make any sense.
So where'd all the people go? In the rift? What is this rift?
It's like a crack in space-time. It's like an alternate universe.
That they found, that's supposed to be the exact spot that the Mary Celeste was found?
Yeah. And there was, like, right under where it happened, there was great seismic activity, which caused the rift, and that's why everybody disappeared. And she showed a video at the beginning of a bird flying and then it disappearing, and the captain's like, "What the fuck happened to the bird?" And it's like, it went to the rift, and he's like, "Oh, okay."
So then she's looking for her daughter on the other side of the world?
Yeah.
And how old is her daughter supposed to be?
Her daughter's meant to be like 5 or 6.
And you would play hide and seek on a ship in the middle of the ocean with a 5-year-old?
Yeah, not thinking that. And I saw the ship that they were on. It's not very secure, so it's
you just fall overboard.
Yeah, very easily. I mean, you get a little close to the edge and you hit a wave. That kid's never seen again.
So what happens if we bring in Devil's Pass movie into this to help explain the disappearance, and we do something with the teleportation. Remember that Hawkins teleported and it kind of like put these people in the walls and stuff. What if they teleported the ship in the 1800s? We had the technology before. Or, well, there was time travel in Devil's Pass too, so who knows? And they just kind of, when they teleported back, they were outside the ship and just drowned underneath it. And the boat fell off.
Yeah, they were teleported to a time when the ship wasn't floating there. And they drowned.
And then the lifeboat just happened to fall off or something.
So the haunting of the Mary Celeste is Devil's Pass 2. It makes sense. It makes sense. You know, you have a point. It does make sense.
Devil's Pass 2, just a different location and different time.
Yeah.
Earlier time.
Devil's Pass
later.
was a much better movie, though.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. This is mainly people walking around a dark boat for about an hour and 20 minutes. And then there's like 10 minutes of like action.
The Devil's Pass was way more action.
Way more action. And yeah, there's monsters and there was love, and there was snow.
Yeah,
had everything you want.
Do you think Dyatlov would like the movie?
Yeah.
He'd like the movie about the Devil's Pass? You think so?
I think so. I think
Do
they
you
would be
think-
like, ha ha ha.
Do you think Captain Briggs would like this movie?
You know what? If he was sitting there with a cool glass of Ovaltine, just watching, yeah, I think he would.
Yeah, because the Ovaltine would calm him down.
Absolutely.
The Ovaltine
Through
those
all the
vitamins and
rage.
minerals. Yeah. No, I get it. That's true.
It's a bad movie.
So, what's this rating on that movie for you? How many stars are you in it?
Oh, I give it a solid 1.
1 star.
1 out of 10.
So you would rather watch Titanic 2?
That was more tolerable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was more tolerable. More happened in that movie. Like, there was, like, rogue wave after rogue wave because
From a water bottle.
Yeah, a guy dropped a water bottle on a piece of ice and it went causing seismic events. This is just people wandering around a boat in the dark.
With one person who doesn't even speak English.
One person doesn't speak English, and they didn't want to deal with that, so they made him go catatonic first.
So he just leaves the couch he's laid on or the bed he laid. Like, he just disappears.
He just disappears. He's just not there anymore.
No idea where he went.
Never explained. Ever.
That's good quality.
It's solid. It's... yeah, it adds to the ambiance.
Oh, man. So, yeah, bad movie. All right, that's good.
Yeah, I know I was telling you earlier you should watch it. You shouldn't. You should skip this one.
Don't even watch. Oh, yeah, I didn't watch it. I was going to watch it. I was thinking about watching it for the episode, and then I was like, Josh's like, nah, I'll just talk about it. I was like, all right, we'll do that. That's fine. And we ended up, it probably was for the best.
See, guys, you see how much suffering I put myself through for you?
The other thing we didn't talk about is, since you're the cryptid killer, the sea monster that could have killed these people, could you take it?
No, I thought about this. I thought long and hard about this. I could wait for it to get close to the ship, and then I could start kicking open barrels of denatured alcohol into the ocean, causing it to get delirious. And then while it's all loopy, I'd stab the shit out of it with a big old harpoon.
That does make sense. Yeah, you're going to completely starve it of oxygen from its brain. It can't function properly, and then you take it out.
Yeah.
I like it. Absolutely.
It's solid. It's well thought out.
Probably the best.
Yeah.
Right. So, next recording, where are we going?
Well, no, we got to talk about the what they found under the pyramids recently.
We do. We probably should, right?
We're definitely going to, because that's very interesting to me. I've been watching a lot of stuff on that, and there's just more information coming out every day on it. So
yeah. So why didn't they fucking think about doing some kind of like sonar or radar before?
I don't know. That's a great question. I've got to find that out because you'd think that they would.
I think we should definitely talk. We'll talk about the pyramids, the boring shapes, and talk about maybe what they could have been before we found this information. And now with this information, does it change our view of what they actually were? Were they burial grounds? I don't think so.
No.
There's never any proof that anyone was buried in any of these. No bodies were found.
No. Yeah, we got to talk about that next because I'm itching to discuss that one. Yeah, again, why the fuck? We've had this technology for so long and they didn't want to do these readings sooner.
Yeah. There's literally like just cylinders and like a hidden city underneath these pyramids. It's insane.
And if that's hidden there, what's hidden everywhere else? It could
Everywhere else.
It could be more.
And then since we're going to do that, I guess we're not going to do this Call of Duty episode.
I mean, at this point, I feel like we want it more than anyone. But
I don't think anyone else wants to hear it.
No.
I think we just been... Steve does exist, though.
He's real.
Call of Duty expert.
I was with him over the weekend.
So he is real.
He is real. We went hatchet throwing.
Okay. So he's real. Okay.
He's real.
This
Very good
is
with hatchet.
Is he?
Yeah, he's actually not bad. He was doing trick shots.
Wow, I didn't expect that.
Me neither.
Were you scared?
A little.
First?
Yeah, they bounced back at me a few times, but I'm quick.
See, just by looking at you, I think you'd be experienced with a hatchet, but I guess not.
I am. I got the bullseye a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remind me of like Dr. Squatch.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I guess it's good, right?
I was thinking more of any mall Santa ever. But
No. You're
That's
not gray.
not yet. I'm going to wear it with a badge of honor as soon as I turn gray.
Will you?
But,
Yeah, well, so be sure to drink your Ovaltine, and we'll get those. We'll get that episode out about the pyramids soon, and yeah, I guess we're signing off.
yeah, don't go on boats. Bye.